Welcome back to the Beit Midrash here at Conservative Yeshiva here in Jerusalem. I am honored to be sitting next to my teacher, Dr. Shia Rothberg. Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for inviting me.
Welcome to the class, Season of Strength, connecting Jewish strength in the story of Chanukah, the holiday of Chanukah, to the holiday of Purim. And we've explored Sugya from Talmud, and we've explored Psukim from the actual text of Megillat Esther. And now, tell me what we're going to be looking at today.
So we're looking at a section from Orot by Rav Kook, Rav Avraham Yitzchak Cohen Kook, who died in 1935. He's one of the central sort of pillars of Jewish thought, of Jewish spirituality in the modern era. And he writes in this section we'll look at in Orot Yisrael, the Lights of Israel, about the source of the strength of Israel. We'll read a few lines from this section. Rav Kook's Hebrew is very beautiful, somewhat difficult, and so we'll work on different ways we might translate it. So he opens up and he says, "Atzmut hachefetz shel heyot tov lakol, belo shum hagbala ba'olam klal, ben b'kmut hanitavim uven b'ichuto shel hatov, zehu hagarin hapnimi shel mahut nishmata." Shel Knesset Yisrael. So he says, the very essence of the desire of goodness for everything, without any limitation in the world of any kind, no limitation vis-a-vis the he or she who benefits from the goodness, and no limitation vis-a-vis the quality of the goodness that we're talking about. This will, this desire for goodness for all things, for all people, for all living things, for the universe as a whole, this is the internal essence of the soul of Knesset Yisrael. Now, Knesset Yisrael is the assembly of Israel, right? But the assembly of Israel means both the actual Jewish people who live today and the Jewish people historically, but it's also a symbol of the presence of God in the world. We start to get a sense in this piece about the sort of, I think, the radical and interesting way that Rav Kook unifies the most universalistic aspirations and ideals and the most particularistic kind of Jewish commitment to the unique Jewish spirit, the unique Jewish identity.
When you say symbol, you mean Kabbalistic symbol?
Kabbalistic symbol.
So you're saying, because Rav Kook uses a lot of Kabbalah in his writings, so he's a Kabbalist. So Knesset Yisrael is, at the same time, the physical representation of God in the world. I mean, the Assembly of Israel is the physicality of...
Right, or maybe not physical, but the most imminent, the closest.
The closest, right.
Also maybe physical, depending on how far pantheistically you want to push his thinking.
Right, and at the same time, Knesset Yisrael might include... There are questions in terms of who that includes. So Knesset Yisrael, if we want to read this in terms of in a particular sense, Knesset Yisrael is the Jewish people, no matter where they are. And in another sense, Knesset Yisrael might mean
right, as we'll see later
everybody.
On, it might mean even the universe as a whole.
Right.
In some sense, I think what he means by Yisrael, I mean, there are places where it sounds like he means specifically Jews doing Jewish things, and there are other places where I think he means a certain sort of quality or aspect of human consciousness, which is the aspect which drives us to aspire towards connecting to the divine. Now there is a danger here of a certain kind of ethnocentric focus on the Jewish people, and I think that's a danger in Rav Kook, and I think it's a danger in Jewish religion, and it's certainly a danger in Jewish society, and certainly in Israeli society.
And in all religions and in all societies.
Yeah, I think we may have a somewhat more self-centered bent, actually, in certain contexts. I think we have it may also have to do with the power of our identity and the struggle for survival. But I think that tension of where is Israel on the line between universal and particular is also one of the things I think is most powerful about what Rav Kook is saying here. So, in other words, he's saying that well, he's going to talk more about the strength of Israel, but that the essence of what we are, in the most particularistic sense, is this will to do the universal good for all creatures. And so I think the model that Rav Kook has us is, we'll see also in the Fourfold Song, where he moves from the individual to the Jewish nation to humanity to the universe as a whole, and then he uses the word Israel, Yisrael, Shir El, the song of God, to tie all those four into one unity. The sense that he creates is that the deeper we dive into Jewish particularism, the more we get into the details of the holidays of Chanukah and Purim, the more we get into the organic rhythm of the Jewish year, of living in Eretz Yisrael, living in the order of the Chagim, of the holidays, that we both connect to something which is uniquely us, but ultimately find that the root of that is something which is completely universal.
Right, and there's no doubt that when it comes to Chanukah and Purim, these are two of the most particular Jewish stories, and at the same time they're absolute universal messages, where Chanukah can be portrayed, which it is, on Sesame Street, as a story for
national liberation,
self-determination, and self-determination and religious freedom, religious pluralism, religious tolerance, and that's how Chanukah is portrayed on Sesame Street. If it can be portrayed on Sesame Street, there is a universal
message.
Right, exactly, there's a universal message.
Right. Although in some sense, if I wanted to look for the universalism of Hanukkah vis-a-vis the line we just read in Rav Kook, it's in some ways more radical than the Sesame Street version. I know it's hard to imagine, but in the sense that it's specifically in self-determination of the Jewish people living according to its own culture and religion, language, self-understanding in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, which is the way that we can contribute to a universal system. I mean, in that sense, it's actually two sides of the same coin. Jewish self-determination in Eretz Yisrael, through the unique body politic of the Jewish people reconstituted after all these years, Jewish culture, Jewish language, the renaissance of Jewish literature, Jewish music. That's one side of the coin, where we connect to our own unique identity in Eretz Yisrael. But the flip side of that same coin is the vision of the prophets, the vision of Isaiah, that from Eretz Yisrael, from Jewish self-determination, will rise up from the bedrock of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem, a vision and a message for humanity as a whole, which is critical, the just rule of law for all people in all places. And that leads us up to the next line. V'zeu sod hishtokakut ha'geula shebe'umah. And this unification of the inner essence of the Jewish people with the most universal commitment to the good of all living things, of all things, this is the secret of the desire for redemption that is in the nation. Hanoten la koach lechiyot v'litkayem ba'ofen hamafli et lev kol choshev, which gives strength to live, to survive, in a way which has wondered so many people vis-a-vis the long-term survival of the Jewish people, even as a tiny nation scattered among the other nations. That Rav Kook is saying that the secret, we're saying two things here. One is that our identification with God's will to be beneficent towards all creatures and towards all things is the will for redemption. The will for redemption is to bring out, is to realize that potential for the divine beneficence overflowing on all things. And that will for redemption is paradoxically what has kept us an individual nation all these years. That is to say, the power of our particular survival draws from the sea of universality, right? And that mamash takes us to the Fourfold Song. Because in the Fourfold Song, Rav Kook talks about 4 different kinds of songs that people sing. Now, when he talks about singing a song, he doesn't just mean singing a song, obviously. He means connecting with the basic rhythm that gives you life, that gives you energy, which fills your life with meaning, which motivates you, right? So he talks about the song of one's own life, the song of the Jewish nation, the song of humanity, and the song of the universe as a whole. And it's very interesting how he gets from one to the other. He doesn't suggest you leave one behind. You never leave the previous stage behind. A person is always that person's unique identity. It's through your own unique identity, says Rav Kook, that you seek out your roots. You seek out to understand the foundation, and you find that it's in the nation as a whole.
So if you dig deep inside yourself, what we ultimately find is we find a Jewish identity, but we, even deeper than that, we find that we're a part of the world.
That's right. Each one is actually built into the next. In other words, my individuality is not undermined by my commitment to the Jewish collective. It's expressed, it's expanded. I find my roots. That which expresses itself in my own individuality is actually growing out of this larger foundation. But then the Jewish foundation itself is actually growing out of a larger foundation yet, humanity,
right.
And humanity itself, the universe as a whole. That's exactly as you said. And then he says at the very end, so to notice how we're moving. So we're moving. I'm deeping. The deeper I dig into myself, the most particularistic element, the more expansive my search becomes. And when I'm committed to the Jewish people and I'm feeling the rhythm of Jewish life, that leads me to the rhythm of human life, eventually to the universe as a whole. And then he completes. He says, and this full comprehensiveness, all four songs, rises to become the song of holiness, the song of God, the song of Israel, in its full strength and beauty, in its full authenticity and greatness. The name Israel, Yisrael, the letters are Shir El, the song of God. And so what seems paradoxical here, that the most particularistic is connected to the most universalistic, in the fourfold song he actually lines up and shows us how we sort of climb from stage to stage, and it's the vision, the unified vision as a whole, where we've embraced our particularity, our unique identity in its completeness, and at the same time we see that as a manifestation of God's universality.
Almost just to connect it back to the class, it seems as though whenever we access our own strength, our own self-determination, we're accessing part of the divine, according to Rav Kook. And so whether it be the founding of the State of Israel, whether it be Chanukah or Purim, whenever the Jewish people finds its own strength, finds its own identity, and expresses itself through that strength, that is God's will, essentially. That is accessing a piece of God that is there for us to access, essentially.
Right, and it also establishes criteria, in a sense, for when we know that we're connecting to our deepest authenticity.
Right.
When we see that our connection to the land, to ourselves, to our culture, to our religion, is bringing blessing to the world as a whole.
That's the
we
proof.
know we're doing it right.
Right.
If it's not happening, then we know we might have to mend our ways.
Right, right. I want to thank you very much for spending time with us today and bringing Rav Kook, who's one of the great thinkers of the 20th century period, one of the great Jewish thinkers, perhaps of all time, and Chag Sameach, Happy Purim, and for everybody at home in Los Angeles and around the world, thank you very much for joining the class, and Chag Sameach.
Toda rabah.